It's Wordburglar. What's up, everybody? I'm re-presenting this podcast episode. It's Inside Cobra Island Part 1, which I originally did a few years ago on my podcast, Weekend at Burgie's, where I break down all the songs from Welcome to Cobra Island. And this episode is breaking down the very first track called Welcome to Cobra Island, just because it's easier to remember. If you want to hear more episodes, you can go check out my podcast, however you listen to casts that are podded. It's called Weekend at Burgie's, and this was originally on episode 35, presented here, audio only, so you can put it on in the background while you're doing something else. Maybe you're posing your toys or reading your comics or whatever you're doing. And I hope you'll stay tuned because we've got a lot more of these to come. And hey, right now the Replicable Skills vinyl campaign is on. Link at wordburglar.com. Go check it out. We appreciate the support. All right, we'll talk soon. Peace. Burgie. Enjoy. All right, grape soda, check. Chocolate donuts, check. Crocodile repellent, check. What do we got here? A mic, check. Welcome to Weekend at Burgie's, a podcast that's surely pretty late, but hey, it can never come too early, certainly. Wordburg's the voice on the mic, rhyming about whatever stuff and toys that I like. So hoist your device close to your eardrums, wherever you veer from. I'm glad that you're here, chum. Today we're gonna take a little trip back to the island I grew up on, where I didn't get naps. Relax, no brainwave scanner necessary. Keep the mind fresh, never sedentary. Remember every snake, sea slug to slice and dice. What can I say? Hindsight's twice as nice. Play me from paralyzers to parasites, trouble bubbles to mind benders, paratites. Let's take a hike and have a little fun as we break down Cobra Island, track number 1. That's right. We're back here, right where we started. Welcome to Cobra Island, the episode 1. What? What is this? This is Weekend at Burgie's, episode 35, and I've been saying for a while I was going to do a Welcome to Cobra Island episode, talk about the whole album. You know, we had this vinyl thing that we did a crowdfunder for the Welcome to Cobra Island album that I made with a bunch of my pals, and it was an overwhelming success. I have to say thank you to everyone who supported it. I've been busy filling out, packing slips and sending off all these things to you. So I hope everyone who ordered one received it and is happy. If you didn't receive it, if you didn't get happy, no. If you didn't receive it, we do have some extra stock because we did have to do a full press. So I have a limited supply left. I have announced a couple times online, but if you need one, hit me up, wordburg@gmail.com. And thank you to everyone who did order it. I know all the backers got some little bonus surprises. I hope you like that little postcard illustrated by the great Kody Peters. But what is this today? I was looking at doing a whole episode covering the album, and it was just getting out of control. Like, I was going to do track by track, and it was just getting too long. So I came up with an idea that I think is a little bit better. We're just going to do one track per episode. Going to break down, try and answer some questions, and just try and break down all the thoughts and some behind-the-scene tidbits, give you a little background on each track. And we're going to spread them out in between other episodes this year, just because, look, there's been a backlog, and we got to get that unclogged. The podcast, it's been a while. I know we've been very busy. There's a lot happening. I've been working on new tracks. I've got a bunch of cool projects bubbling, but I can't really talk about them just yet. And I've been doing other people's podcasts, OPP. That's, I haven't been doing my own podcast because I've been on a bunch of other ones. Big shout out to Diagnostic 80. We did a full force episode back in the fall. If you missed it, a lot of Cobra Island backstory there. I'll try not to rehash a lot of it here, but it's what happened. If it rhymes, it's real. So some things you might have heard before. And if you have questions, as always, drop a line. So great to hear from so many of you. Thank you for checking in. We're doing okay. We're doing, you know what? We're doing fine. We're doing great. I can't complain. We're grateful. I've got Mealy here and our baby keeping us very busy, and we're just grateful to have each other and be well in our health, and you know, we're just keeping on. We're in Toronto. We've been here for the entire pandemic. And there's been up and down lockdowns. Now we're open. Now it's, you know, the same thing that's going on everywhere. We don't need to rehash that, because I know everybody's dealing with things we never thought we'd have to deal with. So right now, today, we're here to have some fun and talk about this little rap record. So Welcome to Cobra Island, track 1, is produced by an old pal of mine named Bix. And Bix also raps. He used to go by the name Q-Bix, and I first met Q-Bix on CKDU. A friend of ours was doing a radio show, and it was a mutual friend, and they introduced us. My friend Glenn, aka Process, and he introduced me to Bix, and from day one, I was like, this guy's super talented. We got a lot of the same hip-hop sensibilities, and he just had this incredible instinct for beats and rhymes, and he put out a solo project with Alpha Flight, which, if you can find a copy, it's called Incredible Stilo. It's a pretty rare CD to find. I don't even know if it's available online, but it's super dope. He's in the group Alpha Flight with Ghetto Socks, another homie of mine, and Aziz, who is a good friend of ours who left us way too soon. And Aziz and I were really tight, and he was an incredible rapper and just this amazing artist. And Aziz and Bix and Ghetto Socks and Apt and DJ Jabba the Cut, and I don't know, am I forgetting anybody? They were in a group called Alpha Flight, and they still are. It exists. So if you can find that, you will hear some prime quality Bix beats. But these days, Bix does done tons of hip hop beats, but he also does a lot of lo-fi, and he also remixed the Space Defense Team track, which is on Spaceverse. And he raps on Burglaritis, actually. So, look, Bix has been doing tons of stuff, and now he goes by IntJ, INTJAY, and he releases a lot of lo-fi music, so you can find his stuff on there. Anyways, when I was putting together Welcome to Cobra Island, I was reaching out to artists I knew and loved working with, who I thought might be able to get down with this vibe, and I thought of Bix instantly for one of the tracks. I was like, we've got to work together on this. So I told him about the concept. He was down, and he started crafting this incredible beat that initially I wasn't planning on it being the opening track of the album, but as it was coming together, it just all worked so perfectly, and just the way the beat builds, and Timbuktu mixed it all together. We got the stems. You know, Tim was with me. I've said this many times. Tim was with me for the whole project, for Welcome to Cobra Island. I remember he was just kind of like, okay, man, if you're going to do this album inspired by all your favorite action figures and comic books, G.I.JOE and Cobra, I think you can do it, and I think it's going to be good. And you know, I'll be talking to Tim on a later podcast, and we can get his memories from that. But I remember Tim being incredibly encouraging and was with me. I couldn't have done it without him. And taking in everyone's beats, and he produced a few tracks, and of course raps as Shipwreck on Rank and File. But when Tim and I we got this Bix beat, it was just like, whoa, this is just coming together so well. And, of course, Welcome to Cobra Island, the intro track. We couldn't have it any other way. So the main character of the album, to me, is the island, right? Cobra Island is the main character. And we needed to set up this whole thing. Why do you even care about all these characters and where they are? So the album opener, you know, the concept is self-explanatory, and it's self-titled. You know, I wanted to establish the environment and just set up exactly why I think Cobra Island is so cool. It's dangerous, it's mysterious, it's creepy, it's filled with surprises. As a kid, playing with the toys and creating stories in my head and reading the comics. And, I used to imagine, maybe some of you have felt the same way, when you were a kid playing with toys and you're thinking about this stuff. Like, I used to think about how I would fit in if Cobra recruited me. Like, who I would get along with and who I wouldn't, and what, if anything, would actually scare me, right? Because the thing about Cobra is, when you actually look at everything they've got going on, right? Massive weapons, mind control, unstable, violent maniacs. It's quite a terrifying operation. And to be part of that, like waking up every morning on this island surrounded by snakes of all kinds, literal and human, you really got to have like no fear, right? You can't really fear anything, like, because you're gonna wake up in the morning next to maybe like the scariest thing you've ever seen. And as for who is telling the story and welcoming you, I've been asked, is it Rap Viper? Maybe. I mean, originally I had envisioned it as being a high-ranking Cobra officer who was one of those Cobra officers, nameless, but scary, right? I mean, compared to everybody else, when you see Destro and Zartan and Storm Shadow, you might not, you remember that these Cobra blue shirts are, they're pretty badass guys, right? If you saw them on the street or at the grocery store, you'd probably walk the other way. But here on the island, they're kind of lower ranking. So I always envision it as just being sort of one of those like nameless troops who is just like high ranking but nameless, who's showing you around. But I guess it would make sense that it would be Rap Viper because he can rap better than those guys. But maybe this was when Rap Viper was, doing his other things. When I'm not rapping, I've got other stuff I've got to do. Rap Viper had to take people on a tour. So I kind of like that idea. It's kind of grown on me. And maybe that's what I always knew deep down subconsciously. I mean, it's me. And if I'm Rap Viper, I guess that's who it is.
Now before you settle in, let me explain some key features and how in fact we all came to be here. Somewhere just off the Mexican Gulf, the result of an explosion that set off a fault. Professor Apple's plan for Cobra Command gave us our own land. Now we're open to expand extensive enterprises and weather domination. Even got UN status as a sovereign nation. Cryptic order of benevolent reptilian apostates. At least
So
that's
fun
what the
fact, the Cryptic Order of Benevolent Reptilian Apostates. Yes, for all you keen listeners, is an acronym for Cobra, which was used briefly in Marvel Comics, the ones written by Larry Hama, of course. So that is full credit due to Larry, and you'll have to ask him how he came up with that. But up until this point, I can't tell you how long I'd been waiting to use apostate in a rhyme. Now, Professor Apple was a Cobra scientist and a high-ranking Crimson Guardsman who actually went by the name Jones for some reason. But he was Professor Apple, and on top of tricking the Joes into destroying an underwater bunker that wound up triggering a fault and creating Cobra Island, he was also the father of Bongo, the balloon bear, a.k.a. Candy Apple, who dated Ripcord briefly before her untimely demise. Now, whether or not he approved of Candy's career choice as a balloon bear, in one of my favorite storylines of the Marvel run, Professor Apple actually helps Ripcord escape Cobra Island to go save Candy. But then he loses his life after getting cut by Storm Shadow and then thrown into an exploding fire bat. Yeah, so that's probably why you never got a Professor Apple action figure. But yeah, that whole storyline with Ripcord, stay tuned. That is definitely one of my all-time favorites. And if you're looking for great stuff to read, a lot of this goes down around, that storyline goes down around like the 30s and 40s in the Marvel Comics, the original run. Now, so while I love every rhyme, of course, there's definitely stuff that when I write, it just like, oh yeah, that I just love how that came together. It just flows so naturally that it's like, oh man, this rhyme is just like writing itself. Like I really like get on a roll. And in the opening verse, like, welcome to Cobra Island, a violent asylum where the vilest reptiles you can find reside in. Watch your step, never can tell who's hiding, an attractive destination for the non-law abiding. I always like that, the non-law abiding. That was listen, like, I write it, I say it out loud, it feels good. What do you want me to say? There was one line that I remember writing, and it was like, I loved, like, speed dial retirement. I was really happy with that. It's a wild environment where unwelcome guests speed dial retirement. But if you're the type who likes strife and laser firing, consider applying. We're hiring. Are you good at conniving? What about lying? Death defying? Do you enjoy exercising? I remember Les telling me he liked that part. He liked thinking that Cobra would recruit people because they wanted to exercise. Yeah, we trust you'll find divine guidance once you try on this Find Mind appliance. That's obviously about the brainwave scanner. I guarantee your attention's undivided. You won't feel a thing once the pain subsided. Shh, do you hear that silence? The sound of your life intertwined with compliance. With mercenaries, scientists, and pirates, assassins for hire, we desire the right mix of chaos and control. A nice hybrid. Try it. I think you'll like it. I did. It's like a virus. Open wide your iris, leaving you tireless, 'cause snakes don't have eyelids. Now that's a fun fact that I always wanted to share. Snakes don't have eyelids. Maybe some do. Maybe those mutant snakes that have hands. But as far as I'm aware, snakes don't have eyelids. So I really did like how that opening verse just kind of kept flowing together, right? How it all just, kicks off the album. I was worried about it, but it might have been actually the fastest written song on the whole record. And it just set things up. So that's it. That's the track. That's track one. Welcome to Cobra Island. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for tuning in to this experiment where I talk about a song that I made. It's really, really fun, and I'm looking forward to doing more. Shout out More or Less, by the way. I don't think I mentioned him. He did the cuts on this track, and Les and I have been cooking up some new stuff, so we're all these years later, all of us are all still cooking up some things, and I want to get all the collaborators on at some point to talk about this album and, of course, their projects. If you've listened to other episodes of the podcast in the past, you know we like to talk to people around here, and we're going to be bringing that back in full effect, getting things going. We're going to do the whole album at some point. Like I say, we might be interrupting the flow of this series with regular Weekend at Burgie's episodes. And if you like this, maybe we can do it about other songs. I'd love to hear any feedback. Hit me up, drop an email, weekend@burgies@gmail.com or wordburg@gmail.com. I try and respond all the time, and might even read your question on the podcast. We do another podcast called Do You Still Like This Movie? Just type that in and you should be able to find it. There's new episodes of that on the way where we watch a movie that one of us used to like, a guest and I, that is, and we find out if we still like it. Simple as that. All right, I got to get off the island right now. I'm being called to the Cobra Citadel in the city. Take care of yourselves. Hope you can get out and get some fresh air and roll around, take a stroll, whatever you need to do. Rock some beats, listen to the podcast, and call a friend. say hi, check in with somebody. All right, I miss you guys too. We'll talk soon. Peace.